Luminary. They do a lot of research, which helps inform a lot of what we do as well. And they also provide a lot of education, like today, around influencer marketing, all things social media, really just kind of, obviously just like Luminary, focused on women, supporting women. Surprise. So I'm going to hand it right over to Aliza Freud, who is here, and she's going to take it away. Of course, please use the chat. You can add questions in there. We will have plenty of time for Q&A, as well as sort of some walkthroughs of some of our guests here as well. So I'm going to hand it over. Take it away, Aliza.
Well, thank you so much, Romana. I am excited to be here with everyone. Thank you so much for joining. What I'm going to do is I have to start sharing my screen. So let me just get that up so you guys can see. And hopefully, let's see if I can put this into play mode. Okay, I think that should work. You guys able to see my screen? Yes, I'm getting thumbs up. All right, awesome. Well, thanks for having us, Romana. I am really excited about overall our partnership with Luminary. What I love about working with Luminary is you guys have such a strong focus on women and educating women, and we similarly have a really important edict as part of what we do in our mission, which is to help bring what we know, our knowledge, our insights, whether it's our research insights, which we're going to share some research insights from our community today, but also what we do day to day, which is work with a lot of different companies to help them connect with influencers to create content that helps build awareness and sales. So today what we're going to do is really talk about influencer marketing and how it can be useful in your efforts and what it's all about. And whether you're already doing influencer marketing or you're new to it, I think you'll be able to get some hopefully good takeaways. The team has really done an awesome job kind of putting some very recent examples together. So we'll talk through some recent examples as well as just kind of give you an overall view of what's happening, what influencer marketing is, and how to best take advantage of it. So with that, I'm going to try to So as Romana already mentioned, I'm Aliza Freud. I'm the founder and CEO of SheSpeaks. You can find us at shespeaks.com. If you are a woman who wants to join our community, we love having lots of women. We have 250,000 women who are already part of our community. So please join us. It is free to join, and you get to participate in lots of different things. Also, if you want to learn more about working with us from the standpoint of activating our community, our website for that is shespeaksinc.com. So let's talk about influencer marketing for a second. I guess my first question, and this is just to start it off with a question, have you ever been influenced to buy a product or service based on something you saw someone post in social media or online? If you have, you are not alone. 92% of consumers have purchased a product because of what we call an influencer, and we're going to get into what that is in a minute, but because of an influencer recommendation. So that is one of the reasons that influencer marketing is exploding in growth. And what we know is that influencer marketing is projected to hit $15 billion in spend, and that's marketing budget spend, by 2022. And if you compare that to where we were in 2015, only $500 million was spent on influencer marketing in just 6 years ago. So this space has really exploded in growth. And some of the reasons are, one, it really does have a huge impact in terms of what people believe and think about your products. So becoming aware of them and wanting to buy them. The other thing is that we know that about 57% of marketers say that when they have tested influencer marketing content against their regular brand content, it outperforms the brand content. In fact, ad units that feature influencer content have outperformed control ad units, brand ad units, by 166%. So it's pretty compelling in terms of, and if you think about it, it makes sense because an influencer post is very native to digital, right? It's very much what someone expects to see when they're looking through their feed. And when you create an ad out of it, and we're going to show you some examples of this, but when you create an ad out of it, you can get an even bigger benefit of having worked with that influencer because these ads are converting at so much of a higher rate. The last thing I want to say about why influencer marketing is so important right now is because what you can do with influencer marketing, if you think of the traditional purchase funnel, going from awareness to consideration to intent to purchase, right? Whereas the places that people go as they start to think about whether they, become aware of your product, all the way through down to the bottom of the purchase funnel, which is buying your product, really you can get somebody to go through that entire process from awareness to purchase with one single piece of content. So it's a very efficient way to spend money, spend your marketing budget, because somebody who is not aware of your product can become aware of it and then actually go through and purchase product from just one single piece of content. And I'm going to show you some examples of that in a moment. So who we are, just really quickly. SheSpeaks is the largest and most diverse community of female consumers and influencers in the US. We have a monthly reach of 300 million consumers, and that's via our amazing community of the 250,000 women who have signed up to be a part of SheSpeaks. They have their associated social following, and that all brings us to 300 million consumers that we're able to reach. And we have also, we're an award-winning marketing and media platform, and we connect women with the brands who want to reach them. We have a couple of clients that are listed there on the bottom of the types of companies we work with, but really it's any company that has an interest in winning with female consumers, having women want to buy their products. So it could be anything from financial services to consumer packaged goods companies to retailers. So it's really across the board. Okay, so let's get into the heart of it. What is an influencer? So an influencer, we define an influencer as someone who has built a strong social following, trust and engagement with their audience. And the part I really want to make sure we're clear on is that it's not just someone who's built a large following. It's someone that actually has built a trust with their audience, which you can measure by looking at engagement. And I'm going to show you some more information about all of that in a minute. And it really could be any of the social platforms. It could be Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, Twitter, TikTok, Snapchat. It could be YouTube, any of the platforms. But really, so influencers exist all on all of these platforms. And really what you want to look for is someone who has a good following, but also based on engagement, and I'm going to show you how to look at that, has the trust of their audience. So let's talk about what an influencer is, more on what an influencer is. So many influencers have audiences that rival those of popular TV shows. And I really wanted to point this out because when you think about the marketing mix and how you're going to reach your target audience, a lot of people think, well, if I'm doing influencer, that's fine. That's sort of maybe a digital thing that I'm doing, but I still need to do, let's say, television or other what we call above the line activities. And what I want to make sure is clear to everyone is if you look at, like, this is TLC, the 90 Day Fiance, if anyone is a fan, you are not alone if you're a fan. It is one of the top rated, it is actually one of the top rated, but this is data from November, late last year. They had about 2.5 million viewers of their show, and they were the #1 cable show that week, the week of 11/8. And you compare that to somebody, to an influencer group like What's Up Moms, and I'm going to show you an example of them in a minute, who have a YouTube following of 3 million plus users. So 3 million plus followers. So if you look at the scale, there is really an enormous, there's very similar, there can be very similar scale in terms of the reach of an influencer to where somebody might be advertising on a television show. So let's talk about the types of influencers. The influencer marketing world debates a little bit how to define the influencer groups, but for some rules of thumb, we wanted to provide you with how we look at influencers and then the costs associated with working with them. So nano influencers, these are people who you would kind of see, or they see themselves as sort of the regular consumers, but they have social media. Maybe they have between 1,000 or 5,000 followers. And to work with them, there might be some nominal fee to work with them, or you might even be able to work with them for free in exchange for product. And you would need to, we'll talk about how to reach out, but you would need to reach out. And if you wanted to work with them with a nano influencer and just let them know, what you had to offer and see if that was something that they were interested in participating in. So that's nano influencers. Then there's micro influencers. These are people we define as having a following of anywhere from 5,000 to 100,000 followers. And the average cost to work with them, and again, these are rules of thumb because pricing is really kind of all over the place. So what we wanted to do was we looked at a bunch of different campaigns, we looked at a bunch of different categories of influencers, and we came up with some averages for you. But there's highs and lows within these ranges. But on average, $500 to work with a micro influencer to create content on your behalf. Mid-tier influencers or middle influencers, what we call middle influencers. These are people who have anywhere from 100 to 500,000 followers, and their average cost to work with a mid-tier influencer starts at about $5,000. Now, again, remember what I said about the averages. There's lower and there's higher. This is the average. Macro influencers, these are people who have 500,000 to 1 million followers. An average cost to work with them could run about $20,000. Again, high and low in between those. And then finally, there's what we call mega or celebrity tier influencers. These are people who have over 1 million followers. They're celebrities in their own right. Some of them are on television. Some of them have just built a celebrity status on social media, and working with them could cost easily $50,000 or more. I will tell you that we have worked with influencers who don't even talk to you for less than 7 figures. So there is a big range when you get to the mega and the celebrity in terms of pricing, but you can work with these types of influencers for an average of around 50,000. And it could be lower, as I said, but it also could be way higher. So now let's talk about another really important element. I mentioned before that when we think about influencers, we think about what defines an influencer is not just the reach that they have, but it's also the trust that they've built. One of the ways we think about trust is engagement. So we look at engagement rates. Here are some average engagement rates for different types of influencer levels across Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Now, there are other platforms as well. We just wanted to give you a couple to think about. But the idea here is that engagement rates really looks at the way you calculate an engagement rate is you look at the number of followers someone has, and when they post something, how much engagement do they get? How many likes, how many comments do they get with that piece of content? And it's literally just a calculation. So it's the number of engagements they have, right? The likes and the comments, and you divide that by the number of followers they have, and you come up with an engagement rate. Now, the trend that I'm trying to make sure we're clear, there are 2 things to think about. Engagement rates on different platforms are different. Twitter has by far a lower engagement rate than something like Instagram does. So just note that, and you can see that on this chart, just directionally. But the other thing to note directionally is that the smaller your following, the higher your engagement rate. So when you get up to the larger influencers, if you see engagement rates that are above 1%, you're doing well. You're doing well in terms of engagement. But if you're a micro influencer, if you're a smaller influencer, you are actually seeing higher engagement rates. And that's one of the things when people ask us, when clients of ours, when companies we work with say, what strategy should we pursue here with influencers? Should we be looking at micro influencers? Should we be looking at mega influencers? Really, the way to think, there's a lot that goes into it, but think about engagement rates, because just because you're using a micro influencer doesn't mean that they can't get you really good awareness, because engagement rates tend to be higher. So that's just a really important thing to think about when you think about an influencer overall. And you can, as I just described, you can look at their engagement rates. You don't need a system. You don't need any kind of technology, any kind of outside platform to figure out somebody's engagement rate. Go to their Instagram account, look at their last 4 to 5 posts, and look at the number of comments and views of that piece of content, and then do the calculation based on the number of followers, and you can come up with what their engagement rate has been for the last few posts. That is a great way to determine if someone is potentially a good candidate for working with you from an engagement standpoint. Okay, so what is influencer marketing, and what are the benefits? So think about the potential of influencer marketing as really helping give you, one, creative, because some of the influencers are amazing content creators, and many of them are amazing content creators. This is what they do all day long. And not only that, but during COVID, a lot of companies, and we've worked with several companies that are typically companies that do very expansive shoots. In normal times, they do these very expensive shoots for whether it's product photos or it's video content. They normally do that, but during COVID, they weren't able to. So they started utilizing influencers to create that content for them. And it's been a really effective strategy. I'm going to show you some examples. So think about influencer value as, one, they can be great sources of helping you get amazing creative and content. Number two, of course, the media piece, which is what everyone thinks about, right? They're going to help you get awareness. They're going to help you get reach, because by virtue of them talking about your product or service, their audience is going to find out about it. So that's the media and the reach piece. And then also very importantly, and especially depending on what kind of result you want to see, influencers can very much drive direct marketing and sales. And I'm going to show you some examples of that. So they can help if you wanted them to drive signups to your newsletter, to your site, to purchase product. You can integrate that into a piece of influencer content. And I'm going to show you examples. So those are 3 major benefits that we think of when we think about the value of influencer marketing. Oops, sorry. I'm going to show you an example of, I mentioned before, if you remember, What's Up Moms. They were the ones that had over 3 million followers. YouTube is one of their main platforms for social. And we worked with them on a campaign for a Procter & Gamble product called Venus, the Venus razor. And I'm going to show you the piece of content from that.
Too ambitious. You've got to focus. Let's talk strategy. Ankles only yoga pant change. Up to the knee rear shaped leg go to waste. Feel my leg. Thanks. And put back on your mom pants. You accomplished a lot today.
Okay, so the reason that I wanted to show you that is, as the title of this slide indicates, this is an example of where the brand that we worked with, this is Venus, decided to not only utilize that piece of content where the influencers released it on their channel. As you can see, since this video was released, it's had over 10 million views. So that's another thing to think about with influencer content. It's evergreen content. It's always there. It's always on. If somebody goes through somebody's YouTube channel and looks at other videos, they will find it. If somebody goes through somebody's Instagram feed, as people will do, they will find it. And what we did was, in this instance, because we were looking to help drive sales of the Venus product at Walmart, we embedded a link right in the description of the video. There was also an end card that had it on the video itself, but it linked people directly to purchase the product on Walmart's site, which is what we were looking to try to drive. And we were able to look at the number of clicks. It's very easy to track that. And there were over 32,000 clicks during the campaign period, which was a 6-week period. And so obviously since then there are more, but just during the campaign period, we tracked over 32,000 clicks for people to the Venus page to purchase product on Walmart.com. So just an example of how influencer content can not only be used for organic awareness for the audience of the influencer, but also one way to integrate a sales component. And we're going to talk about some others also. This is just an example that I wanted to share with you. This was actually a campaign that we ran with Finish, the detergent, the dishwashing detergent. And the idea here was the brand did not have, they wanted to appeal to a Hispanic audience in the US, but they did not have content in Spanish that they felt that they could use in a digital campaign. So as part of this influencer campaign, not only were we working to help get them awareness of the brand, but also the brand, the Finish detergent brand, ended up using the content in ad units in addition to the influencers. So this is Ana Marie Lopez. If you are not familiar with Ana Marie, she is on the Univision equivalent of the Today Show. She's an anchor of one of the main anchors of that show. And so she has about 6 million followers. And you can see she had over 1 million views of this piece of content and helped achieve a 20% engagement rate. As I mentioned earlier, this is an Instagram post. If you see a 1%, over a 1% engagement rate from a celebrity influencer, which Ana Marie with over 6 million followers would certainly be considered a celebrity influencer, to have a 20% engagement rate was a really great result. But I want to explain why we thought that this one was an important one to show. One of the things that brands tend to do when they think about influencer marketing, as they think about it with any piece of content, you know, and having, as someone who worked on the brand side, I worked on the brand side for half of my career, and it is very tempting to want to be as prescriptive as you can be about how people talk about your product and what they say in the piece of content. What I want to encourage you to do is to be open to what the influencer brings to the table. Good influencers, whether they're micro influencers or celebrity influencers, they understand their audience and they will want to protect that relationship that they have with their audience. So they're not going to want to put out something that they don't think is going to resonate with their audience. So what we, in this instance, Ana Marie came to us with this is one of the pieces of content she worked on with us. And she said, I feel very strongly, her team said, we feel very strongly that we should have the thumbnail of the video be a picture of Ada Marie and her husband kissing in the kitchen because it's part of what happened in the video story. And you know, the brands can be pretty conservative and, you know, not necessarily want to be associated with that something like that in a piece of content. But I give so much credit to the team at Finish, at Finish Detergent, because they said, you know what? She feels strongly about this and she knows her audience. We're going to go for it. And that very much is what helped drive the interest in this piece of content. People saw, as they're scrolling through their feeds, they see a picture of Ada Marie kissing her husband and they're like, oh, I want to see what that is. Even though it's clearly marked as an ad. And the second they open the piece of content, it says #ad. The idea was, how do we get people interested in seeing the content? And once they opened it and watched the content, it's an engaging video, it's a cute video, and it very successfully performed for the brand. The brand also, as I mentioned before, they needed content, the Spanish content in Spanish that they could use in ad units. So this is another influencer we work with, Maria Sierra, and she's at La Coquette, and she created some amazing pieces of content. She's a wonderful photographer, and she was able to create some beautiful content for the brand that they used in ad units, as you can see here in these units that I have up on the page, and they were used in multiple types of units. The campaign overall we had multiple influencers in this one. It had a 215% ROI. The brand also was able to get more than 50 pieces of brand creative that was specifically in Spanish, and it was an important market for the brand. And we had a lot of views on the content, and they were able to determine that they had close to $1 million of earned media value from the campaign. So very successful. They were also able to attribute sales to it, but the value of having the influencer, giving them the opportunity to really do what they know how to do, understand their audience, and then create the piece of content with your brand in mind, is a best practice. So another example of how you can use influencer content for direct sales. These are two examples. I'm not going to go show both of them. I'll just kind of quickly show you what you do as I'm talking through it. There's no sound, but basically what happens is you create your piece of content. This is the influencer. Oops, this is a SheSpeaks example, but it's the same idea as an influencer. The influencer would post it on their channel. There's a Shop Now button. If you click the Shop Now button, it adds the products that are featured in that piece of content directly into your cart on whichever website you choose. This is a Walmart example. So in this case, it was recipe driven, and it was related to, this was a campaign for the Super Bowl. And so it was all the things that you needed to create a great small gathering, because it was this past big game, this past Super Bowl, but it gives you a sense for, and this works similarly. This is an influencer that we work with this is for a different brand, but it's the same idea. The person goes through, they see the content from the influencer, and they can click the Shop Now button, and it takes you directly to the retailer that puts the items into your cart, and you can choose which retailers you want to have show up there for people. So just want to make sure I gave you those couple of examples of how you really can go from awareness of somebody not necessarily being aware of the product that you're talking about, and all the way through to purchase product in one piece of content. So this is an example. This is for Secret, the one on the right, as you see it playing. This is an example of the collapsing of the purchase funnel that I mentioned earlier. So another thing that's been working really well, especially during the pandemic, this is a celebrity chef. If you are familiar with Tiffany Derry, she is unbelievable. If you are watching Top Chef, the new season 18, just came out, and she is a judge now. She was a contestant, and she was one of the favorites, one of the finalists as a contestant. She is now a judge, and she worked with us on a campaign for Kraft, and it was basically one of the elements that that we had was her doing a live, this was a Facebook Live, and she did a live conversation with people about how to create some favorites this was for the big game, also for the Super Bowl. And she took questions from people. It was a really interactive session. And again, with one piece of content, you can get a lot of people engaged and talking about your brand. And it also lives on, right? So this piece of content lives on Facebook. One other thing I wanted to mention, because it's important to think about purchasing, right? One of the things that we have been hearing from a lot of different companies is not just the desire to build awareness for their brands, but also to have a way to drive purchase. So we do a campaign, we have a campaign that we call Verified Purchase, and really what it does, and you can do this again, if you are not necessarily a big brand like Heinz, you can also do this, but the process for this is you can go out to a community of your followers. In this case, we went out to a group of our SheSpeaks members who are also Walmart shoppers and fall into the demographic we were looking for this Heinz product. It's the tomato ketchup. And we had that group of people raise their hands, agree to go in store. They purchased the product. They then uploaded their receipt. They can upload their receipt to you directly, but we have a platform that allows them to upload the receipt to us. It again then gets verified. And as the final component, they share their experience with the product on social media. So not only are you getting them to go in store to purchase product, but you're also getting the social sharing benefit. And in this example, we had, as you can see too, as people go into the stores, they are picking the product up off the shelf, taking photos of it, and doing that as part of their social sharing. And you can really reach a large group of people with an approach like this. And in addition, in this case, we were also looking to drive, this is a new product. It was a product that had veggies in it, a blend of vegetables in it. And we were also looking to help drive reviews, online reviews. Another element that is a great benefit of working with influencers, and micro influencers are a good example too. They will, if you ask them to, they will create honest reviews for you about the product that you've asked them to try. So definitely take advantage of that, because we know that online reviews can significantly impact, and we're going to talk about that a little bit more, but can significantly impact your conversion rate. So I know we're kind of running okay with time, but I want to get through a couple of quick things on just some other tips for how to use influencer content. So don't just think of influencer content as something that they create the content and they push it out on their social channels. Think about how you can use it as ads. We already talked about how you could use the content as ad creative, but also think about getting the rights. When you work with the influencers, you can ask them to give you rights to the content to use on your owned and operated channels or on a retail partner's channels. So this is an example of a campaign for Coca-Cola. In this example, we were using Sprite and Coca-Cola, and we had influencers creating their own unique drinks for Halloween, if you couldn't guess from these images here. And the content was really strong, and the brand decided to use this. This is from the brand's, the brand has a relationship with Sam's Club, and they wanted to promote these recipes as thought starters for people during the Halloween season. So they created, they took the content, these are all influencer pieces of content. When they click through to see the recipe, it took them to see the recipe and what was involved in making it, and allowed them to go purchase product to make it on their own. So think about how you can use your influencer content more broadly than just them sharing on social, and even more broadly than just using it as an ad unit. Use it on your website. Use it on your retail partners' websites. Use it on YouTube. This is an example of an influencer who created content and the brand liked it so much they ended up using it on their YouTube channel. So just think about utilizing that content in multiple places. Here's another example of content that was used. I mentioned that Super Bowl campaign that we worked on for Kraft. Many recipes from influencers were created for that campaign, and the brand ended up using that content in multiple formats, but they also used it. This is on Walmart.com, where they're featured products. These were a bunch of the featured products that were part of that campaign, and they ended up using the recipes right there to get people interested and excited about the ingredients for those recipes. So I am going to kind of quickly talk about one other element to think about as it relates to products and how you can use it. This is for a product launch for Huggies. It was a premium version of Huggies, and the goal was really to help drive trial and awareness of this new diaper that was available at Walmart. The influencer content showed shoppers where to find the product because it was a new product, not one that people were familiar with from Huggies, and also where to find it in the store. So the influencers, as part of the activation, they created content showing where to find it in the store. We also generated product reviews that were used. As part of this, one thing you can do, and depending on your budget and the scale of what you're looking for, if you are a brand and you're looking to drive people into a particular retail location, one of the things you can do is integrate what's called a foot traffic study as part of your content. So in this instance, we were able to embed tracking, so we could then do a foot traffic study to understand how many incremental visits were we driving into the store. And you can see that this campaign had about 37,000 incremental store visits, a lot of social content, how many people were able to be reached, and then the number of engagements in that content. A couple of other tips, and then we'll get to some Q&A. With influencer marketing, I've been trying to give you some ideas as we've gone, but authenticity is hugely important. And one of the things that I think has happened during the pandemic is that brands it's given brands license to be more human and to be more authentic to what's going on with their target consumer, their target shopper. In this instance, L'Oreal was realizing that people were not able to get out to their salons, but their hair was still going gray. This is Eva Longoria, the actress, who is a ambassador for L'Oreal, and she partnered with L'Oreal to create this really smart piece of content that ended up doing so well for them that they used it in television spots. It was meant to be a digital piece of content to begin with, but it performed so well for them that they ended up using it in television as well. And you can see that basically what Ava says in the content, without seeing what she's actually saying, is, look, my hair is still going gray. I can't go to the salon, so I'm using L'Oreal Excellence, and I'm going to show you how it works. So a really successful campaign for L'Oreal. Another thing to think about Instagram stories. They can be hugely effective when people use the swipe up function on an Instagram. And if an influencer has over 10,000 followers, they can use the swipe up. When you do that, you can have people have a link there that drives people directly to a page, to a product, to purchase product. So when you think about utilizing influencers, if you use influencers who have over the 10,000 follower mark, they can actually embed in their stories a swipe up that allows people to connect to an actual piece, to a website or some other destination. This is another thought for everyone when you're thinking about influencers. TikTok is obviously a very hot platform right now. So many people have jumped onto it since the pandemic. Older people then had been using it, so they have really grown their audience, and brands are jumping in, not surprisingly. There are 2 examples here. We're going to send this deck out so that people can see it, but these are 2 totally different examples. This is a publisher that's working on promoting one of their titles, one of their books. This is for a food-related campaign. But think about utilizing those influencers on TikTok, as TikTok is absolutely being seen as a platform that drives purchase. People are seeing the product and become aware of it, and then they are going out and buying it. So think about that. Another thing to think about is Reels. So on Instagram, you can use Reels. Instagram wants people to be utilizing Reels. So what they're doing, okay, we're good. What they're doing is the algorithm is giving more weight to Reels right now. So you might post something on your Instagram account as a company. You might be posting something on your Instagram account as a regular post, and you get a very, very small percentage of your audience that gets to see it. Now, when you post on Reels, because they want people to use Reels, because it's a competitor to TikTok, they are really favoring content on Reels. So if you post something on Reels, you will get at a much larger percentage of your audience. And they are also prioritizing Reels for viral content. So think about Reels. We've been having some really good success utilizing Reels, and it's absolutely outperforming just from a number standpoint, regular Instagram posts. Okay. We're going to move on. Okay. One other thing to think about is this is another example of a celebrity. This was for March Madness, which just completed, I believe. And we worked with WNBA star Candace Parker. She created multiple pieces of content for this. That content went also to purchasing product. And one of the things this is another example of where the talent, the influencer said to us, they gave us this piece of content. I'm not going to make us watch it at the moment, but this piece of content, which is Candace and her daughter watching a game with the Reese's kind of surrounding them. And they don't really say the product anywhere in this short video, but it's featured. And generally, if you're a brand, you want people to say the product name. But Candace said when she created and submitted this piece of content, she said, I'm telling you, my audience is going to love this because it's me and my daughter watching basketball on TV. And that is what they're interested in. The product is so clearly integrated. Let's give it a whirl. Let me show you how well this piece of content can perform. And as you can see, that piece of content had a 22% engagement rate. It's kind of unbelievable that you can get a piece of content to perform that well with somebody of Candace's level of influence. So again, going back to the point I made earlier, when you partner with influencers, recognize they understand their audience. They understand what people will want to see from them. So resist the urge to make it very branded if you can, because the content that can perform the best is where the product is clearly integrated, but it does not come across as a celebrity kind of just reading out an ad. So another idea there. I want to quickly mention Clubhouse because it is a new platform that brands are starting to think about. And it is one that it's an audio, the content has not shown up here. It is an audio based app. It's invite only right now, but there are a lot more people on the app. They're up to 10 million users. They have a very high valuation. The app just celebrated its 1-year anniversary. It is It is still in beta technically, but brands that have jumped into the app are really seeing some good early success with it. They are starting to sponsor rooms, and influencers are also developing on this app. In fact, they just yesterday launched their creator payments. So now there's a way for creators to get paid on the app from creating their content. So if you are on the app, you know, it is definitely something to pursue. If you aren't on the app and you want to be on the app, feel free to contact me because I have some invites. I want to offer that. You can reach me at aliza@shespeaks.com. Just let me know if you want an invite. I'm happy to share one with you for as many as I have while you guys are contacting me. And feel free also to connect with me on Clubhouse. I'm at Aliza Freud. But definitely, this is an app to start to watch and to start to play around with for lots of different companies. Okay, finally, I just want to get to how to go through the process of influencer marketing. The most important thing you want to start with with defining what your objective is and who your target is. So what are you trying to accomplish with the campaign? Are you trying to drive awareness? Are you trying to drive sales? Are you trying to do both? But define your objectives. Be very clear on who your target is. Then when you look for your influencers, anybody who you go out to should be able to very clearly tell you who their audience is. You want to make sure that the influencer gives you a sense for who your audience is, who their audience is, so that you're hitting the right people. So target your influencers. Next step, create the content. You work with the influencers, make sure that they're briefed on what you want. You can give them guidelines. But as I said before, a couple of times, be sure to give them the opportunity to tell you what is going to work well with their audience as it relates to the product, because they understand their audience. Next step is distribute the content, meaning the influencer posts the content, track the best performing content. If you're working with 5 influencers, 2, however many you're working with, track which content is performing best. What's getting the most likes? What's getting the most comments? What's getting the most shares? Which is all information. You don't need a platform to track that. You can track that yourself, but look at which content is performing best. Then take that best performing content and create ad units out of it. Say to the influencer, hey, this piece of content is performing really well for me. I'd like to use it as an ad piece of ad content. And then you can use that as a digital ad unit and get it out to a larger audience. And then finally, of course, measure and optimize. Measure everything that you're doing. There are we have a platform that allows us to easily measure content, who it's reaching, how many people it's reaching, how many posts, which content is performing best. But again, if you're a small business, you can do this. Everything I'm telling you, you should be able to track on your own. You may not have a dashboard that's easy, but you can pull the information together and track what is performing well for you. Finally, success factors. So to summarize it all, be really clear on what you want to deliver from an influencer campaign and who you want to target. Choose your influencers widely. Look at their reach, but look at their engagement and the authenticity of the content when choosing them. Brief the influencers well and make sure that they understand the type and tone of content you want. But as we also said, leverage their content, their influencer content across an integrated strategy. Don't just use it as content that they push out onto their channel. Use it on your site. Use it on your owned and operated. Use it on your retail partner site if you can, and use it as ad units. Really think about how to optimize the content all the way through the purchase funnel. And finally, remember the long tail of influencer content. That content stays up, it's there, it's always around. It's not like a television spot on one day, off, on 1 minute and off the next. The content stays live and is there, and you continue to gather the benefit of that. So with that, I have done so much talking, and I want to make sure we have time for we have a couple of questions, and I'm going to get out of here. I'm going to stop my share. And I believe that somebody else on our team, Carol or Madison has a couple of examples that we're going to talk through. And do we have questions, Romana, that we want to get answered?
We definitely do. And we also have Dawn and Lynette here who can kind of go over with you live in person, as well as some that I believe Madison took down from the chat as you were going.
Okay, great. Well, why don't we try? I know we've got about 7 or so minutes. So why don't we try to get through as much as we can? Go for it, Madison.
Sure. Okay, so Dawn, do you want to tell us just a little bit briefly about your business, and then I can pull up your Instagram page and we can talk through some concrete ideas?
Yes, thank you so much. She Speaks. This was wonderful, Aliza. The presentation was marvelous. I took lots of notes, so thank you very much. My name is Dawn Kelly. I am the founder and CEO of the Nourish Spot. I'm hoping all of you women would follow me at the Nourish Spot. We are a healthy food and beverage haven in Southeast Jamaica, Queens. We've been open a little less than 5 years. We stayed open through the pandemic, thank you God. And we are doing our best to create engagement with our customers, who we affectionately call nourishers. So honestly, I have 2 questions for Aliza. I want to know how we can become influencers, nano influencers or micro influencers, but also on the flip side, how we might be able to work with influencers as well. So that's where I'm coming from.
Sure. Well, I'll answer the second question first. To work with influencers, what I would do is look at keywords that make sense for your brand. Do a search. You can search on Instagram. You can search on the different platforms, but do a search on the words that that resonate for you. If you find an influencer as you're going, you will inevitably find influencers as you go. You can reach out to them, DM them and say, listen, I love this piece of content that you created. This is my brand. This is what we are trying to do. And oh my goodness, that looks delicious, that smoothie right there. So this is my brand. This is what we do. And I would love to send you some product. If we're small brands. I'd love to send you some product. Would you be willing to work with us? And they might say, listen, I require a fee to do it. And then you could, if you wanted to, say, well, what is that fee, and make a determination. But then ask them questions like, what do you typically see? What other campaigns have you done in the past? What kind of results? Can you drive sales? Like, ask them those questions. And, yes, it takes a little bit of work because you have to do the research into it. But once you get a group, like you could get a group of 5 to 10 people who you really enjoy working with them as ambassadors. We didn't really talk that much about the value of working with someone on an ongoing basis versus working with them one-off. There's a lot of value, especially for a small brand that's growing, to find a group of people who you like, again, 5 to 10 people who you like, and work with them on an ongoing basis. You have a new product launch, you have a new flavor, you have a new thing you're doing. Just, if you can build a relationship with them, you'll get a lot more efficiency from working with them than you would if you just work with them on a one-off basis. So I hope that gives you an answer to that question. How you can become an influencer yourself. I mean, I think what you would have to determine is, the purpose of becoming an influencer, right, is that some other brands might want to hire you to engage on their behalf. You certainly could. You need to find, you'd have to make sure that it was clear that you could post legitimately and authentically about those topics of what that brand is. I would give you a little bit of a watch out on that. If your Instagram page is about you and your brand, is about your brand. I think it could be difficult to suddenly start posting sponsored content for another brand. So I would definitely caution you about how that might come across to your audience. It's not unheard of that people do that companies do it, but you might instead want to do it from if you have a personal Instagram, that might be a better way to do it. And then what brands are looking for is, do you reach the audience that they want to reach? And do you get the engagement like we talked about before? Do people engage with your content? And can you credibly talk about their product?
Thank you.
So
and I do have a personal page. It's PR Maven 17. So hopefully one day you'll get a chance to look at it, Aliza.
Awesome. We'll do. We definitely, and we can follow up, Dawn. Thank you for those. I know we're running short on time, but we definitely can follow up. Did we have another question that we wanted to respond to now?
Yes, I think there was a second entrepreneur, Breads and Threads. I'll pull up the Instagram right now. If you want to quickly introduce your business and we can talk through your questions a little bit. And then I do have some concrete examples for both of you. So if anyone can stay on past one, great. You can see a little bit more, but if you have to go, we get it.
Lynette, go ahead. And you should be able to go ahead and chat.
Thanks. I'm Lynette. I own Breads and Threads Handmade, the store and the magazine. I'm also a farmer, so I'm a little bit all over the map, and I'm a writer as well. I guess I didn't have a question. I did like Dawn's question. It kind of answered my question as far as how we would use influencers. I'm learning a ton on Clubhouse. So I love that she mentioned Clubhouse because it is really helping us as a business, at least for the magazine, to get our name out there. But we don't look to be influencers. We possibly could look to find influencers for ourselves. So Dawn, the question Dawn asked pretty much kind of answered mine that I had in my mind. So I'm just enjoying.
Great. Well, I'm glad to hear that.
Well, I had an idea for you and also for Dawn and that I'd like to share. Like, I quickly went to TikTok and I did a search for knitwear. Let me see if I can share the little picture I took. And what you'll see is there are so many videos. Like, this is such a trending topic. So like Aliza said, find the keyword that matches to your business, right? So I went and looked up knitwear because I had seen your Instagram page. I knew that your products had to do with that. And it's such a trending topic right now. What you would have to do is go in and find some of these small influencers who are sharing this trend with you. And what you would do is offer to send them a product, right? You have to find the right person that has the right size audiences willing to work with you. It might take a couple asks, but this could easily get your products in front of thousands of people, right? And it's not one of these things that you need a huge budget to do, but TikTok is a great platform for items going viral. So I think that would be a great option or opportunity for you. With Dawn, it was a similar search. I did Queens Foodies. I looked at your location. You're based in Jamaica, Queens, and that's a great spot for people who love to make foodie TikToks. So again, finding the right hashtags that pertain to your business, the right trends that go along with it. With the Queens Foodies ones, these are people who are just going around New York and finding food spots to share with their audience. They're doing it for free already. So if you're coming in with the opportunity, like, come try my food, I'll give you lunch for free. They make a TikTok about it, my day in Queens, you know, these are the types of TikToks and trends that are getting in front of tons of people. So I think it's great exposure, a great way to start working with influencers without having like a ginormous budget for influencer work.
Awesome. Thank you, Madison.
Thank you very much, Madison.
All right. I know it's after 1 o'clock Eastern. Is there any other burning question, or could we maybe we could take these questions so we have a way to get in touch to answer people? What do you think, Romana?
Absolutely. We can first of all make this recording available. I know some people have to leave at 1. And then we can always add in, we have all your all's emails and we can add it into any follow-up you want to do. There was a question about service-based companies, just because I know we had some non-service. I don't know if you have any quick thoughts on that. Otherwise, we can wrap and go.
Yeah, I mean, yes, for service-based companies, it's similar. We definitely have worked with companies that are service-based or not tangible product, but it's more of a service. And it's the same general principles. It's really the same idea of you find your target of who you're looking to approach, you figure out who those right people are, do they reach the audience that you're looking to get to, and then work with them. You give them the same idea. Here's the brief. This is what I want you to know about my brand. And then you work with them to create that content and content that performs well. Use it the same way we talked about. Use it in your owned and operated channels, use it on your ad units, use it on retail sites, use it as much as you possibly can. You're investing in creating the content, utilize it. So get the most out of it that you possibly can. So service-based companies should be similar. And I apologize that we didn't give an example of a service-based company, but the ideas and the approach would be similar. Well, thank you so much. We will definitely follow up.
I just had one question before.
Sure.
Hey,
go ahead.
Around the fees that you mentioned on that slide, is that like per unit of content, or are there several pieces of content that's created? For example, a Nano Influencer would charge 5,000, or Micro would charge 5,000. Is that per piece or over several pieces? So
it varies in terms of how many pieces of content and the platforms that they'll share on. So it's not just, don't think about it from both perspectives, not just when you're talking to an influencer, not just how many pieces of content they'll create for you, but also which platforms will they share that content on. If they're strong on Facebook and Instagram, you definitely talk to them about posting in both places, or similarly with TikTok, like talk to them about where they're strong and negotiate a deal where they are creating more than one piece of content if you can, and also sharing it on more than one platform. So the short answer, Manifa, is it depends in terms of whether it's one piece of content or 3 pieces of content, and then also how many platforms they're sharing it on. And that you just get to when you start to talk to them. You will find out very quickly how they're going to charge for what. All right. Thank you so much, everyone. We really appreciate all of you guys who stayed on with us. I know we ran long, and we appreciate all the questions. Again, if you want to follow up with us, please feel free. My contact information is Aliza, ALIZA, at SheSpeaks.com. And we will, if you have a question from today that didn't get answered, please email us, and we will make sure we get you an answer.
Thank you. That was
Thank you.
perfect.
Yes.
Thanks.
Thank you, everyone, for coming.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ramona.
Bye.